On your jacket here you have a number of medals. Can you tell us what they are?
Well, yeah, some of them I can, some of them I can't. A lot of them is the first one is in the ascendancy of importance. They go from left to right, right being over the heart, I suppose. This is the Air Force Cross, this one on the immediate right, which is always in the sequence. The most important medal is the one nearest the center line of the body. So that's the Air Force Cross, and the next one is it was the 1943 star. It was given initially to those that were in service in 1943, and eventually it became to any of them that were in active service anywhere, and you got that one. Most of these are all British issue, you see. Canada, up until fairly recently, didn't have its own medals and awards. The other ones, the Volunteer Medal and the Canada Medal and overseas, and oh yes, the third middle one is for flying. It's the French Germany. Those of us that flew operations over France and Germany during the war years rented that one. So that's the bunch of them. These are just miniatures. The main medals are a bigger medal and a heavier medal. And I just use my big ones are hanging on the dining room wall at home, and I just use the little one.
Earlier we were talking about it's a new generation, another generation here.
It is indeed. You see the old ones in my day, the headliners were Churchill, Roosevelt, Hitler, Mussolini. Some of them gone to the reward. Some of them were best good riddance, but it was a different world entirely. And now my generation is gone, pretty well gone. And the next one is fading. But the world goes on. I've got not only I got one great-great-grandchild. So, the world goes on. We can only have it for
You
so
think your generation left us?
I don't know. I don't. I begin to wonder whether we're going to leave any or not. But I think my generation was probably one of the finest generations that Canada ever produced. Majority were farm boys or connected to farms and land and so on. There was only 20 million people in all of Canada at that time, so we're a different bunch today. They're more cityfied. They're used to living in a close proximity in crowded cities and so on. Our generation are free, and it's surprising. Farm boys, the first time they'd ever seen anything bigger than a grain elevator. I remember getting off the train on Union Station in Toronto and looking up at the Royal York Hotel. I never saw anything. That's a huge hotel. Somebody said, "You're going to get the roof of your mouth sunburned. You're going to stop looking at those big buildings." But that was the way it was, you see. And now in Toronto, you can't even see the Royal York Hotel. Everything is twice that high.
When you go to Remembrance Day ceremonies.
Well, I was president of the Air Force Officers Association here in Vancouver. It goes back to 1937. Various people have been head of that. And I still go in 7 o'clock in the morning. We have a dawn patrol there, and we have our own service and memorial service and so on. We're usually through by 11:30, and then I come out, pop into my own Legion here in Langley, have a beer with the boys there, and go home. My missions were night patrol, so on and so forth, and trying to protect our 80GB was the squadron. That's Air Defence of Great Britain, and we tried to protect at night any of the incoming German bombing aircraft. We were night fighters. We had radar on board and so on. We had a navigator, skilled man on radio interceptions and so on. I flew the airplane, and he chatted away there to right and left, up and down, and so on, until we could come in behind the enemy aircraft. And usually, as soon as they sensed we were near, they just roll over, drop their bombs, and skedaddle for home. So, although we didn't shoot many of them down, they're hard to find at night. We did deter an awful lot of bombs that would otherwise have dropped in Great Britain somewhere along the Thames. So I covered up around Newcastle for the first 6 months of my operations, around the Newcastle area, out over the North Sea, right out within sight of the Danish coast and the Norwegian coast. And so we patrolled out there, and then the last little bit of the war, the last portion of the war, I guess last year of the war, we gradually got moved south, and then when I was over the beachhead for 3 days, the D-1 D night and D+1, those 3 nights I patrolled over the beachhead. We went up very high, 25,000, and we patrolled there, but later on we moved at right in Caen. The main airport at Caen was called Capriquet, and we were the first night fighter squadron based in Capriquet. And then as the Army moved up and they freed other air bases for us, as soon as those bases were out of artillery range, then we moved out to those bases all the way up. I moved up and eventually into just outside of Brussels, and that's where I was screened. I'd been on operations for a year and a half, and I guess they figured I'd done my part, so I was sent back to England. I instructed for 6 months and then home. I was on just out of Glasgow on the way home when the E-Day came, and I came straight home, straight to Winnipeg, Air Canada or Trans-Canada Airlines as it was then. So I just changed uniform and got right on flying.
Well, thank you very much, Bill.
Yeah.